everyone. Good morning and welcome to another video podcast of Porn News Today Live. Now, this morning I'm going to go ahead and give my in-depth analysis of Jon Robson's The Last Days of August, which is an audible audiobook podcast that was produced and put together to investigate and provide some commentary and even psychoanalysis in regards to the recent departure of a porn star known as August Ames, real name Mercedes Grabowski. Now, I'll tell you, one of the characters, or should I say people, that this particular podcast revolves around, a pornographer known as Kevin Moore, who was married to Mercedes Grabowski. He has some really good friends, because I'm not going to say who, but someone who is attached to the Adult Performers Actors Guild Union really went to bat for him in regards to his character, because this particular person was aware that I was going to listen to the audiobook, The Last Days of August. So upon my starting to listen to it, I had a very open mind, but I was highly suspicious in regards to that audiobook in actuality being some sort of a intimidation tactic against Kevin Moore to possibly get him to drop his lawsuit against Wicked Pictures. But I was completely wrong. The Last Days of August, from my perspective, is probably one of the best educational pieces that's ever been put together when it comes to the reality of what the adult entertainment industry or American pornographic industry truly is. I actually feel it should be required listening for any individual who plans to work within the porn industry, whether they be a performer or someone who works behind the scenes. Now, if you're planning to listen to this audiobook, my commentary and analysis most likely will include a few spoilers, so if that's the case, stop listening right now. But I wanted to put this analysis together because I've noticed that there are some individuals already trying to spin what this audiobook truly addresses, which is the fact that August Ames' death never should have been politicized. At least not in my opinion, because her death did not have to do with being bullied by the quote-unquote gay side of the adult entertainment industry. Her death had to do with the individuals who surrounded her, who she was as a person, and just the fact that it doesn't seem that a lot of people who did surround her lived by the golden rule of treating others the way that you in turn would want to be treated. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in to my commentary. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to read through some tweets that I posted as I was listening to The Last Days of August. And as I go through these tweets, which are all time-stamped in conjunction with the audiobook, I'm going to expand on a bit of what I had to say on my social media post. And for those of you who would like to follow along or possibly review my social media posts in regards to The Last Days of August, just head on over to pornnewstoday.com and look for the article, Finally, Some Solid Clarity on Porn Star August Ames' Death, The Last Days of August, an audiobook. Okay, I'm at the 14-minute, 36-second mark of Chapter 1 of The Last Days of August. It's noted that August Ames' husband, Kevin, had access to her Twitter account after her death, where he posted his statement. But did he prior to her death, too? If he did, I wonder if he ever posted as her. That's something that I have wondered and thought about for quite some time, ever since the announcement of Mercedes Grabowski's death, and ever since her death has been highly politicized by certain individuals within the American pornographic industry when it comes to quite a few disputes between the quote unquote gay side of the industry and the quote unquote straight side of the industry. I'll just put it as this. Oftentimes, males in the industry who have certain agendas utilize their girlfriends or wives who are performers to spread certain ideals or mantras on social media. Because the reality is, the porn industry is always about the girl. Nobody really cares about the guys. So if a guy has an idea that he wants to get across or something to say, being that the girls generally have a larger Twitter following, why wouldn't they utilize their girlfriend's Twitter to get their points across, or social media for that matter? I'm not saying that that was the case when it came to Kevin and August, but it could have been, because he did seem to have access to her social media. And I wonder if when the pile-on occurred due to some rather unsavory tweets that she made prior to her death, I'm wondering if she made the tweets initially, or all of them, or if Kevin made some of the tweets, or if she was tweeting what Kevin was simply saying. Because for quite some time, Kevin has promoted the idea that it's dangerous to work with crossover performers. And I personally feel that that's an ideal that is rooted in bigotry, hate, misogyny, and possibly even a bit of racism, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Jon Robson corroborates at the 20-minute, 52-second mark what I was told directly by Jackson Wheeler and his wife in regards to his tweet being sent 3 hours after August Ames had already passed. Ronson's team fact-checked that situation, so no one should utilize Jackson as a scapegoat anymore. Now, when it comes to this particular tweet, I highly advise that many of you watch the podcast of Porn News Today Live that was posted prior to this one, because I do go in depth in regards to exactly why adult performer Jackson Wheeler should never have been utilized as a scapegoat, should never have been blamed, because the reality is that Mercedes Grabowski never read the tweet that he posted that was directed towards her. In fact, Jackson Wheeler has gone through some things very similar to what I have had to go through over the years when it comes to harassment, stalking, and even having your family members doxxed and targeted. Back when I was a performer known as Monica Foster, and I'll tell you, that's part of the reason why I have really wanted to put this in-depth analysis together, because so much of Jon Robson's book, The Last Days of August, truly took me back in time to when I was a performer in the adult industry known as Monica Foster, and quite a bit of what I went through upon my departure from that industry. I went through so much hate that was based in nothing more than racism. I've dealt with so many people targeting me who embody homophobia, not because I'm a part of the LGBT community, but because I have family members who are. So as soon as I learned about what Jackson was going through, I was like, now wait a minute. Are the same people unjustly targeting him the people who were unjustly targeting me? Now this is odd. At the 22-minute, 15-second mark of Chapter 1 of The Last Days of August, Jon Robson refers to porn actress Mercedes Carrera as being a porn veteran. Laugh out loud. I don't think so. She just entered the industry in 2014. I highly suggest IAFD to fact check things like that. Now, before I expand on the tweet that I just read, I do want to preface what I'm about to say by stating that I'm actually very glad that Mercedes Carrera was a part of the Last Days of August project, because she's a very intelligent woman who provided a lot of insight when it came to the dynamics between August Ames and her husband. I was a bit thrown by her being labeled an adult industry veteran, because when I was an active performer, you weren't really considered a veteran unless you'd been in for at least 10 years. But hey, I guess things are changing. That's fine. And Mercedes Carrera, she's a very interesting woman. For those of you who would like to learn more about her, check out an interview that was recently released featuring her that was conducted by a pornographer known as Holly Randall. Holly's podcast is Holly Randall Unfiltered. At the 32-minute mark of the last days of August, August's best friend, Emma Hicks, states her husband attempted to control what information was shared about August. But strangely, around the 36-minute mark, Mercedes Carrera is consulted by Jon Robson again. Why is she in this so much? And you will learn why she was in this so much, but I was a bit confused again as to why Mercedes was consulted, but we're going to get to that. But Emma Hicks being brought into the equation was interesting. Now, something I want all of you to keep in mind is that Mercedes Carrera, she's around my age. I think she's about 36 years old. Emma Hicks, I would say, would be in her 20s. Around the 39-minute mark of the last days of August Ames, Mercedes Carrera gets into how she really wanted to be August's friend, but felt Kevin Moore wouldn't let her have friends. I'm thinking August just couldn't relate to Mercedes. Not all young women want older female friends. From my perspective, it seemed that Kevin Moore did not want August to have friends who possibly could provide a bit of insight as to how the world works and how she should truly value herself as a person. Emma Hicks was more so August's age, so I think that Kevin probably thought he could control that situation a bit, and it was interesting that Emma did relate that Kevin attempted to dictate to her what should be said about August to the interviewer, Jon Robson. And of course, at about the 41-minute mark of the last days of August, while Jon Robson is interviewing Emma Hicks, who Kevin Moore did appear to allow August to be friends with, so far he just seems controlling, not crazy, Mike Quasar busts in. Why is Quasar everywhere? I almost wonder if Mike Quasar was asked to monitor what Emma Hicks had to say. Mike Quasar, he's been around for a real long time in the porn industry, a real long time. Actually, he's a part of a pack of guys who at one point in time were in a band together. Every once in a while, I suppose they still do their little reunion shows. But Mike Quasar was in a band with a man who I knew fairly well, who had a personality not too much different from Kevin Moore. That would actually be a very interesting audiobook to put together, something that circulated around those band members, because those guys seem to be in the thick of things quite a bit. Oh no, at the 43-minute, 52-second mark of the last days of August, Derek Hay chimes in with his thoughts immediately after Emma Hicks relates that she's heard that Kevin Moore's exes are either dead or institutionalized. Jon Robson, many girls Derek has represented are dead too. Now, later in the podcast, that point, which I made in my tweet, is brought up by adult actress Lisa Ann. Actually, this particular podcast did not focus on all of Kevin Moore's exes. There's one who is known as Veronica Lynn that was not mentioned. And it was surprising to me that she wasn't mentioned, being that there, what was his name? Gene Ross, a veteran adult entertainment industry blogger, at one point wrote an extensive piece as to how Veronica Lynn's mother had to intervene in the relationship between her daughter and Kevin. But let's continue. Jon Robson uncovers around the 48-minute mark that Kevin Moore had another wife between his dating Hunter Bryce, who's dead too, and marrying August Ames, a porn star who was repped by Derek Hay, known as Shazia Sahari, a woman of Pakistani and Saudi descent. This was the key. Shazia Sahari. And I'll tell you what's ironic about the Shazia Sahari connection in the last days of August. The only reason that it seems Jon Robson was able to track down Shazia Sahari was due to an online manifestation of the bigoted hate that Kevin Moore has essentially preached for quite a few years. If that particular venue that led Jon Robson to finding Shazia didn't exist, I don't think that we would have learned as much of the history of Kevin Moore, which is presented in the last days of August. But this Shazia Sahari connection, gosh, what that girl went through, oh my gosh. It really was a situation that I could tremendously relate to. Look for part 2 of Alexandra Mayer's in-depth analysis of the last days of August on an upcoming video podcast of Porn News Today Live.